Let's start by talking about regrets.
What happened, and I can't change it.
I'm kind of curious about this.
One of us hinted at having feelings. The other person was not interested.
Were you the one that wasn't interested?
Yeah. I was like, no one better think we're dating.
It's like the classic Jim and Pam.
The trail is hard, and if you can find someone to help you through it, why not?
Benefits of hiking with a partner, not those benefits, okay? So relax. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Trail Tales, episode number 180, I believe, which is insane. The second Trail Days episode. I have shoes on this time, so you don't have to look at my bare feet. That was my fault last episode. Not my proudest moment. But we got a repeat guest on, but our first in-person episode, Maddie Zickel, right?
Yeah.
I always get paranoid about the last names. She did the Appalachian Trail last year. She's done a bunch of other cool stuff. Some paddling. We'll probably get into that. And I'm just so excited to have her back on the show. And real quick, I'm going to do the podcast YouTuber BS. Subscribe. We passed 12,000 on Trail Tales recently. And we're not stopping, dude. We're taking this all the way, however high we can get it. So please subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're not, if you're listening, I really appreciate it. And 5-star reviews, you know. You ever heard a podcaster ask for a 5-star review? Well, there's a reason for that. So please go leave a 5-star review. And with that said, Maddie, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
So for reference, everybody, it is exactly 10:31 in the morning right now. But beer in beautiful places. Maddie was kind enough to bring the Dragonfly IPA from Bloomington, Indiana. And I've never had this before. And I also haven't drank a beer I haven't drank a beer before like 11 a.m. since probably even later than that, to be honest, since college is what I'm getting at. And so this could get a little weird, but you know what? I appreciate you bringing it in.
Sure.
And I'll cheers to that.
Cheers.
To Trail Days. How about that?
Yeah. Woo. Starting Trail Days right.
Yeah. You guys just got here last night, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we went and walked around a little bit. I know we already had this conversation, but for everyone listening, Levi and I went and walked around a little bit last night. I don't know. We were there relatively early still. It was probably like 9:30, but shit already was getting a little weird in Tent City.
Oh, yeah?
I kind of want to did you guys walk around like in the actual tents and stuff last night?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. We walked like probably halfway down the trail, like in the back of the woods there. Uh-huh. And then we were like, okay, we're just scoping out. We weren't really like trying
Wasn't your vibe?
No. Sorry, I feel like I came off wrong there. Nothing against the vibe.
Yeah.
We were just kind of scoping it out. And then honestly, it was probably more so because of like the mud and the fact that it
That's
was dark
true.
and we didn't have headlamps unlike everyone else
Lots
there.
of things to trip on back there.
Yeah, but it was cool. So I'm excited to see what the rest of the weekend's festivities bring. But thank you.
It's going to be a good one.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on again. I'm sure a lot of people remember your episode and are familiar with you from YouTube and stuff, but do you mind just doing like another brief introduction into who you are and your channel and all that stuff?
Sure. Well, my name is Maddie, and my channel is called Beer in Beautiful Places. I like to hike, paddle. I have a converted van that I go on trips in sometimes, so all kinds of outdoorsy things, and it's kind of a tradition for me to drink a beer after an adventure, so yeah. That's me.
Yeah. And you did the AT last year. We talked all about that. So if anyone didn't go listen to our last episode, definitely go do that because you had some.
Yeah.
You know, I was actually just thinking about this. What was it? I think I was like on the drive up here actually yesterday. I was reminiscing on some of like my old like formative like trail experiences back when I was in high school. And one of them, I've told this story in the show before, but I accidentally caught a bandana on fire while I was cooking on my stove.
What?
I might have mentioned that in our episode. I can't remember.
I don't remember that.
I might not have, but and that got me thinking about like how dangerous those freaking stoves can be sometimes. Mm-hmm. And then I obviously thought of your story, which is insane. They really can
be. Yeah, I heard a horror story about someone wearing rain boots and spilling water down in the rain boots.
Oh no!
Yeah. So every time I've used one since, I've been like,
yeah. Wait, were they on trail wearing rain boots?
Honestly, I don't remember who was telling me this story or what. I just, every time I use that stove, I think, okay, what kind of shoes am I wearing? Well, at least they're not rain boots.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Probably someone if they were hiking in rain boots, that's
Yeah.
got to be their trail
True.
name, right?
Yeah. Good point.
Who knows? So we got a couple different things we're going to get into today, but skimming through some of your recent videos, there was kind of two things that stood out to me that would be, I think, interesting topics. You know, a lot of people that listen to this show either have hiked the AT or are planning on it. Maybe there's a few crazy ones that are on the AT right now, which I appreciate you. Don't get me wrong if that's you, but I don't know why you would listen to a hiking podcast when you're actually hiking, but I get those messages and comments, so I probably shouldn't be a jerk about it. I really do appreciate them. But anyway, so the AT topics are obviously super popular, and let's start by talking about regrets. Let's just start off negative. Why not? Dramatic.
Well, thinking of regrets, on one hand, I want to be like, don't even think about that because what happened, and I can't change it by
There's something to be
thinking
said
about
about
it.
that. Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's like, why not? Just, it won't change anything, but it also won't hurt anything.
But it might change something in the future, you know.
True.
And I think like regrets. I mean, I understand. Like I use that word. Like I've made videos about this stuff too. And so like I understand like why you use that word, but I feel like maybe I don't know. Maybe it even sounds a little bit more negative than like it actually is, because I do think there's a lot of value in, you know, thinking about like maybe what you wish you would have done a little bit differently, because like I said, in the future it can help things. And I don't know, you're never going to have like a perfect experience.
Yeah,
either.
exactly.
So
for sure. Well, the main thing that I think about when it comes to like what I would tell my past self is that I kind of this won't apply to everyone, because some people aren't doing a very social hike. They're just out there for the nature or just trying to go as fast as they can. But with meeting new people and hiking with a bunch of people, the group that I hiked most of the trail with split up 2/3 of the way through. Just people wanted to go their own paces. And looking back now, that kind of like bums me out, because I was like, man, we're going to go to Katahdin together. We're so close. And then that's not how it turned out. So first I would set the expectation for myself that, remember, like, everyone has their own plans. Like, you don't know how everything is going to go. And two, like, it would be hard to bring up in conversation, but if I could find a non-awkward way to be like, okay, are we just happening to end up at the same campsites and, you know, like, oh, hey, cool, you're here, or are we like purposely like a team now? So just kind of sussing out, getting the vibes on how other people feel. I feel like that
can be kind of awkward.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, it's not really something I've thought about too much, but you probably get this too, Maddie. I get a decent amount of people asking, or like people that are planning on doing the AT and don't have much experience yet. Yeah, like I said, I'm sure you get this too. Like, people more often than I would have guessed are curious about like the social dynamic and like, you know, like how that works, like questions about like trail families and stuff. That is kind of, it's almost like, it's a little different. It's obviously like lower stakes, but it's almost like that weird place, like when you're first like starting to see somebody.
Yeah.
And, you know, but in that scenario, I feel like it's a little bit more expected and reasonable. Maybe not reasonable. It's a little more anticipated to eventually sit down and be like, okay, what are we?
Yeah.
Like,
you can't say that to your group of friends.
When it's just some like random person you met in the woods a week ago, you don't even know their real name. You're just calling them like Pitchfork or whatever the hell their trail name is. Like, that is kind of, have you ever like, I don't know, how have you navigated that? Because I'm thinking about this, and like, I feel like for me, it always just kind of fell into place naturally. Yeah. But I never really had any like big trail families either. You know, and honestly, like both my through hikes was just with like a small group of people. And we actually did do most of the trail together. So I don't know. Yeah. What's your advice to navigate that? Like, it is kind of tricky, isn't it?
No idea. I guess it's just depending on the group of people, depending on the vibe. So I feel like there are some groups that you'll meet that you're free to just talk about whatever, you know. The conversations we have on trail are so much deeper. So I feel like maybe if you just bring up what you're hoping to get out of your hike, that'll lead into like, oh yeah, you want to hang out with the same group the whole time, yeah, I was looking forward to that too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Hopefully.
And then I feel like I might be making this sound more complicated than it actually is too. Because at the end of the day, like, I don't know, like people can just do what they want. Like, I mean, I'm sure and a lot of people experience this. There's some people that might be around sometimes, and then they got sidetracked at this brewery a mile off trail, so I guess we won't see them for the next couple of days. But then they reappear, and there's. I feel like I made it sound more complicated for everybody. Like, don't stress about this if you're through hiking in the future. It'll kind of all fall into place. You don't have to sit down, on day 5 and be like,
day 5.
Okay, what are we? Like,
what are
you don't
we?
have to do that.
What's your expectations? What's your commitment?
Like, you have to commit to hiking with me right now for the rest of the trail, or we're done. No, you don't have to do that. Hold up. Let's pause for just a second, everybody, because I need to tell you about something super cool. Are you ready? Come here. It's Garage Grown Gear. Garage Grown Gear is the sponsor of this episode, and they also just so happen to be the perfect place to discover all of the ultralight accessories that you may or may not need. I'm telling you right now, they have it all. Things from umbrellas and bidets to trowels and dry bags. They've got a ton of wildly cool products to help fill out your gear kit. These products are also incredibly innovative, you could say. I mean, I'd go as far as to say that if you click the link at the top of the description or the show notes, if you're listening on audio, and check out their website, you're going to end up finding backpacking gear items on there that you didn't even know existed. And you'll definitely find some new companies that you didn't know existed either. Like, where is it? This company right here called Bonfus, Bonfus. I probably should have fact-checked that, but I got these DCF stuff sacks from them, and I had literally no clue that they existed until I found them while browsing garagegrowngear.com. And by the way, guys, if you spend over $50 on your order, shipping is going to be completely free. Garage Grown Gear make it easy to get yourself geared up with unique ultralight accessories that make trail life just a little bit more comfortable. So one more time, you know what I'm going to say, right? Click the link at the top of the description or the show notes, or head to garagegrowngear.com. And by the way, when you buy something from them, let them know that Trail Tales and that idiot Kyle sent you over. Thank you so much to Garage Grown Gear for sponsoring this episode. And now let's get back to my chat with Maddie. And again, maybe I'm not the best person to talk about this because, like I said, I didn't have like a big trail family on either trail, but I do feel like a big thing that dictates it is just your hiking pace.
Yeah, definitely.
Like you kind of do have to be on the same page, with miles and your pace. Yeah, with people that you're going to be with a lot, I guess.
Yeah.
And so that might be the deciding factor in a lot of cases too. So.
And people get off trail all the time with like not even expecting it. All of a sudden, like something's going on back home they have to go attend to.
They have to go to a wedding. How often do you hear that? Did you have to do that? Did you have to get off trail for a wedding?
No.
I haven't either, but I feel like that happens all the time. Like that's the number one reason why people like leave trail for like, not like permanently, obviously, but like I feel like that's almost a meme at this point. Just like
maybe because a lot of people in their 20s get married and a lot of people in their 20s are hiking.
Yeah. And a wedding is like one of those things where
you don't want to miss it.
Yeah, and you can commit to it ahead of time. So like people always find a way.
Yeah.
In like the Facebook groups, you always see like, oh, like I need to ride like on this day, like 3 months from now from this airport so I can go to freaking Alaska for a wedding and then come like it's
Alaska, man.
That's a little dramatic, but
But now that I think about it, the advice I gave earlier about bringing it up in conversation, I think you just gotta tell yourself like anything could happen. Yeah. Don't anticipate what's gonna happen. Just take every day as it comes.
Yeah. You don't gotta name names or anything, obviously, but and maybe you don't even have a good answer. Honestly, I don't if someone asked me this question, but for what it's worth, we love the drama on this show. We're all about the drama. Anyone who's seen my thumbnails knows that. So have you ever seen any like just kind of funny drama go down between like a trail family or anything like that? If you don't have one, it's okay. Like I said, I probably don't. I can't really think of one either, but I can't really think of anything good. I'm not like that social on trail, honestly. I got like my core. Yeah. Which might seem weird to some people with like, the YouTube following and like at trail days, I love walking around and talking to people, but I don't know. I'm very much like I'm not an antisocial person, but bigger groups, I'm not great with bigger groups. Like I always preferred like to just have like a small little get together with like my friends versus like going to like a massive party or going out to like a bar or something. But I don't know. I'll be at the bar tonight though, probably. But anyways, Maddie, what's another regret, I guess, you have from your AT through hike?
I wish I would have stretched more and put more into like the recovery and healing up, because it's not something I thought about every day. Like I never saw anyone else stretching, but then at the end I was like, my body hurt so bad. And after the trail, I was like, you know what? I could have tried a little harder to take care of myself. It's one of those things where you're in the moment, you're just in a routine and not really thinking about it. But then at the end, I was like, it probably didn't have to be that hard. That and probably eating a little better too. I was like,
that's a classic.
North sides and ramen. I wish I could have gotten more like nutrients in there, but you know, it's hard when you're on a budget.
It's so hard. I mean, that was one of my regrets after the AT as well. And so going into the PCT 4 years later, and at that point too, just for some context, I had really just changed my overall diet in general, just in real life, and I was eating much healthier. And so going into the PCT, I probably said it in a podcast before or something like that. I probably mentioned it in a video at some point, but I was just like, yeah, like, I'm going to try to eat healthier. And like, I kind of tried, but like you said there, it's way harder. And people do it. Don't get me wrong. There's someone out there, there's plenty of people out there that have done it, but it is just way easier to on paper than it actually is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I tried to eat like more nuts and like some stuff like that. But at the end of the day, especially after like a few weeks and you just get more hungry and, you know, you're burning so many calories, and I'm not trying to discourage anyone from trying to eat healthy, but it's hard. I couldn't do it. I ended up just eating trash on the PCT. I don't know.
Yeah. Especially the PCT where resupplies are so hard.
Yeah.
Is what I heard anyway.
Yeah, they're definitely a little trickier. But even on the AT, like a lot of the time, you know, you might just be at a Dollar General or something, or like a small town grocery store where they don't have too much. You know, resupply boxes are, in my opinion anyways, you know, no secret, a lot of people say this, like probably best to avoid when possible just because it's less convenient. But I will say that if you're like super strict with your diet or you're like really trying to be healthy, it might be worth sending a few more boxes. I don't know. What are some of the things that you might change in terms of like what you eat on your next through hike?
Like, I don't know. That's the thing.
It's
Because it's easy to
hard.
say I want to eat better, but specifically what? I don't know.
It's hard. I always felt like I wasn't getting enough protein on trail. Mm-hmm. I mean, those little stupid chicken packets can only go far enough. And I guess protein bars, you get some protein, but I would just like crave like meat, honestly.
Yeah.
I just felt like that was my body telling me that I needed more protein, but and I guess you could take like protein powder. I've had friends that have done that, but
yeah. I'm curious about powders stuff. Like you have those like greens powders and you have protein powders. I wonder like if that would be worth the weight of carrying.
I feel like it would.
Yeah.
Like last year I had Athletic Greens sponsor, like I'm not one of the Trail Tales episodes, but just like one of the main channel videos. And I loved that product.
Yeah.
My audience didn't apparently because they didn't want to do another one, but I was bummed about that because I loved that. And I was not through hiking at the time, but I remember thinking, I probably even mentioned it in the ad, like, this would be pretty damn good for someone who's on trail because you're going to get those nutrients. And I thought it tasted really, now I'm just doing free ads for Athletic Greens, but
on the downside of Athletic Greens, it is very expensive though.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. But I don't know. It's like, I guess you could probably get a lot of the same, well, I'm just totally talking out of my ass now. I have no idea, but I'm imagining you could probably get a lot of that stuff in a multivitamin too, which would be a lot more affordable and definitely easier to find too. But I don't know. I would love to try it again, honestly. Like in the context of a proper thing. Like that would be cool. Other regrets? I'm trying to think of some too, honestly, because I've talked about them in other episodes, but.
Well, in the end, in Maine, my boyfriend and I skipped part of Maine and then went back for it. so we could finish with the group of people we knew.
Oh, okay.
But lately we've been thinking back on that, and we were like, what if we didn't place priority on finishing with people we knew, and we just did the trail normal, northbound, and then we would have had that moment of being on Katahdin and actually being done. And I think that would have been really cool. Because it was kind of like, oh my gosh, we're on top of this beautiful mountain. We feel so accomplished, but we still have 80 more miles to do. So sometimes we sit around and think, what if, but
Yeah. I think there might be something. I don't want to make you feel bad, but I think there might be something to that, to be honest. And again, it's just going to be personal. I feel like a lot of people probably wouldn't even have gone back and done those 80 miles, honestly.
Yeah, definitely. The people we told at the hostels after the trail were like, just don't worry about it. And we were like, but
no, I respect the shit out of that. That in a perfect world, that's what I would have done as well. But I'm just like, I mean, everyone's like summit moment is so unique.
Yeah.
But like, I'm just, it's hard to imagine like what it would have been like otherwise. But that was honestly one of the coolest moments of my entire life. Like one of the proudest moments, like one of the most, like I felt the most accomplished that I ever had. And like just trying to, I honestly do feel like it probably wouldn't have hit the same if I knew in the back, and not that 80 miles is very much, but like if I knew in the back of my mind, like technically this isn't the end. And I do feel like it might have, not ruined the moment, certainly. But
it hits different.
Yeah.
As the kids are saying. Or I don't think that's a phrase anymore. As the kids said 2 years ago. But we did get to finish crossing the Kennebec, the canoe ride.
That was the end?
Yeah.
So I was going to ask what it actually felt like to finish then. That is kind of cool. That's kind of unique.
And it was 0.4, I think, from the river to the road where that was our actual ending place. And like I was laughing and crying and running, and it was just such a moment. And then we got to just like be done, go to this hotel with a hot tub, have beer in the hot tub. So yeah, it was a good ending still.
So you still felt that like triumph, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was just two separate moments of triumph that it would also have been interesting to just have Katahdin as the big ending.
Yeah, well, hopefully in the future you can get that on another trail.
Yeah, for sure. It's being back here at Trail Days, I'm like, I can't just through hike one time in my life. I have to do the AT again. I have to do the PCT.
Oh, you want to do the AT again?
Maybe. I don't know. When I was on the AT, I was so like sore and it was so rainy. I was like, this is the one time. Don't be tempted to do it again. But now I'm like, but it was just so unique and
interesting.
Yeah.
See, I feel like when you talk to people that have done the AT or probably any long through hike for that matter, I really do feel like it's kind of split down the middle between people who would want to do it again.
Yeah.
Which sounds like you potentially. And then I don't know if I would ever do it again, to be honest. And I know my friend Flossie, who I hiked a lot with on both the AT and the PCT, feels the same way.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I made a video about this like a couple years ago. And like, I mean, the difficulty aspect is certainly part of it, right?
Yeah.
Reliving all that stuff. And I'm not going to lie too. Another thing is like, maybe it's not even so much that I don't want to do the AT again, and more so that I honestly feel like I only have 3 long ones in me, and I've already done 2 of them. And so I feel like I just want to use that third one as another trail that I haven't seen yet. And of course, chasing the Triple Crown goal and stuff. I got a while to go still, but and then also one thing I thought about for that video I made a few years ago, and I'd be curious to hear how you feel about this and if you can relate to this or not. I might jumble my words here, but I just felt like for me personally, like the AT was something that was such like a dream of mine. I had thought about it for years and years and years before I even set foot on it. And so like, I just feel like if I were to go back and do it again, I don't think it would be quite the same. I feel like I had my moments, and I mean, it would still be fun, I'm sure. Don't get me wrong, but I just feel like it wouldn't hit exactly the same.
Yeah.
And so that's another reason why I'm like, I don't know, maybe I had such an amazing formative experience. It's led me to where I am right now. Like, maybe I should just leave that as it is and kind of focus on something else. But I don't know. What do you think about that?
That's very true too, because like every time I would pass a shelter or go someplace I would recognize, I would think back to my 2023 hike. And so that would be a downside of it, being like, I don't want to spend the whole time reminiscing. I want to be making new memories. So
wait, I might have missed something. When did you go back? And just like
I'm talking about hypothetically. If I were to do it again,
sorry. Okay.
I probably phrased that weird.
No, you're good.
But yeah, the whole time I think it would be hard to focus on creating new memories instead of remembering old ones.
But at the same time, I'm gonna play devil's advocate against myself a little bit here.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we're back in Damascus. This is the first time I've been here since I rolled through back in, when was it, June of 2018? Like freaking so long ago now. And like, it is kind of cool to reminisce, and it's kind of cool to just like, and I haven't done like a proper section hike of the AT since my thru hike, but you know, back when I was living up in Vermont, there was a couple times where I would go do like little spots, little just day hikes probably in like southern Vermont and in the Whites too. I've been to various places. And so, and it is kind of fun to like, there was one time, it was the year after I did the AT, I was down in southern Vermont and I hiked to a shelter just as a day hike, and the logbook was still there from the previous year. So I got to like go and like freaking find my entry, and which it wasn't anything exciting, but that was just cool to like see an old entry, and like there is some value in that, but maybe not for an entire thru hike. I don't know. But then maybe there's plenty of people out there that could just have a totally different experience. I mean, plenty of people hike the trail multiple times, so I don't know.
And sometimes I wonder if I went southbound, because the end was so hard for me and the beginning was so like exciting and like, oh my gosh, I love everything. If I did it reverse, would I just get to soak in the north better this time?
Yeah. You know, regular listeners are probably thinking that sounds a little familiar to some of the things I've said about the ending specifically, because the hardest part of my thru hike was the end as well. So in the last episode, we talked about the river incident. Yeah. So I imagine that was hard, but like, what else made the end so difficult for you?
Well, like I mentioned before, the fact that the group I was hiking with had split up. And so I didn't have that same like morale boost. Not saying that was their fault or anything.
No, of course. Yeah.
But plus, it was a record year for rain in Maine. Apparently, last year.
Yes, it was. I was living in. What was your finish date?
Official finish October 14th. Katahdin Day, I think September 28th.
Okay, so you were later in the summer. I was living in New Hampshire, only like 15 minutes from the AT crossing at Crawford Notch, from April through end of July, and so I guess I was. You know, you were probably going through the Whites maybe just a little bit after that. I'm just estimating, I could be wrong, but so I don't know what the second half of the summer was like. The first half of the summer was record rain for freaking sure. I felt so bad. I lived so close. I had like 2 extra bedrooms in that little condo I was staying at. I should have offered to let some hikers crash with me. I was so close.
Imagine that. You're walking down the trail and Kyle hates hiking, invites you to stay.
I almost did it one time. And to be fair, you know, I'm working, you know, I got a life too and everything. But like, there was one time I was doing just a short trail run. I was at, do you remember, you might not remember Lonesome Lake Hut. It's just one of the huts.
I think so.
Earlier in the Whites, there's like a big pond there. I was just like looping through there, and I was a little bit ahead of the thru hikers. See, like the main bubble, I think that's maybe I'm making an excuse. That maybe another reason why I didn't do it. But there was still some people coming through, and I was like chatting with these 2 guys. They didn't like recognize me or they didn't know who I was, but you know, we were just cutting it up. And I almost thought about inviting them, but then, and it's so weird because I've been on the receiving end of this. Like I've been in their shoes before, and like I would be super grateful as long as the person wasn't a weirdo. Yeah. Which I'd like to. Maybe I am a fucking weirdo, but I'd like to think I behaved appropriately in that conversation. They seemed to be enjoying it, the conversation, and everything. So if I was in their shoes and somebody offered, especially we were literally talking about the record rain and everything. Yeah. And someone offered like, hey, you know, I live 15 minutes from the trail, the road you guys are going to cross tomorrow morning, like I can pick you up, then I feel like I would probably be pretty stoked on that. But for some reason, it wasn't that I didn't want to. It wasn't like, oh, I don't want these stinky people in my house. It wasn't that. It was like, I just felt awkward.
Yeah.
And like weird. Like I didn't want to be a weirdo. Like, hey, you stranger, you want to come stay at my house? Like, that's kind of, I think, probably the main reason why I didn't do it. But it's so stupid because I don't know. Sorry if you're watching and listening, which you're probably not, to whomever these gentlemen were. I'm sorry, but I did have a pretty sweet condo and I could have hooked you up, but I didn't do it, Maddie. I fucked up.
Sometimes, like, I would imagine if you were in that situation of hosting people, you'd have to be really, like, outgoing and, like, come up with conversation topics and make these people feel, like, at home and not awkward. So, yeah. I get where you're coming from at the same time.
Yeah. I should have done it, though. I felt bad. Did that happen to you on your through hike? Did a stranger ever let you crash?
When I was in Massachusetts, I don't remember the name of the lake we were by, but it was before Mount Greylock. Someone let us come stay at a lake house, and it was just like the fanciest thing.
You know what they call those in New England?
What?
Camps.
Nice.
Like, oh, let's go up to camp for the weekend.
Oh, okay.
I'm assuming Massachusetts too, like in Maine and like New Hampshire, definitely, but probably in Massachusetts too. They call it camp.
Nice.
My girlfriend thinks that's so weird. She's like, it's not. You're not camping. You're in a house, but that's what. That's the culture, I guess. But a lake house, nice.
Yes, it was so fun.
Yeah, I think I probably told this story a long time ago on the show, but it's been a while. So it only happened to me one time, actually, on probably any through hike for that matter. It's only happened one time, but I was hiking with this guy his trail name was Indy. At the time, he had like dreadlocks. You know, everyone I was hiking with was around my age, like 22, like younger. And he just looked like he's a super great guy. Actually, he was the very first guest ever on Trail Tales way back
really?
when.
The OG.
Yeah. I'm going to see him soon, hopefully. I'm moving to Salt Lake City. But anyways, he looked a little rough around the edges, you know, like the kind of guy that if you saw him hitchhiking, you know, and you didn't know he was a thru hiker, you probably wouldn't want to stop for him, you know, just the dreadlocks, dirty thru hiker. But he super nice guy. But anyways, so we would almost always have a plan for where we were going to stay in town. I'm kind of a planner, so it was usually me, honestly, that would like, you know, find the hotel and make sure it's close to the grocery store and the restaurant and kind of like, you know, figure all that stuff out. But for some reason, it was in Slatington, Pennsylvania. This was like the one time we went into town and we didn't have a plan. I can't remember why. I must not have been able to find anything. I remember I was even like calling restaurants in town. Just being like, can we just like set up on your yard? Like we'll be and of course they were like, fuck you, dude. We're not doing that. Which I don't blame them for. But yeah, I'm trying to illustrate that we just didn't have anywhere to stay and clearly quite desperate for it. And this is also like kind of a Trail Provides story. And so we all kind of hitched into town separately and we kind of met up at this McDonald's in town, and Indy got there a little bit after me, and he was like, yo, like the guy that picked me up like offered to let us stay.
No way.
Or sorry, he offered to let me stay. And so I was like, dude, you got to call him back and you got to convince him to let 3 more people stay. And so he called him back and he convinced him, and this guy, dude, he just absolutely hooked it up. And it's really cool because he, like I said, I'm not trying to like stereotype too much or anything here, but like Indy is just so rough around the edges, dreadlocks. And this guy that picked us up, his name was Joe, was like so white collar. He was like a chiropractor. He had showed up to pick us up after work, so he was in his like nice clothes and everything, and took us back to his beautiful house with his like wife and his son there. And it was just like so interesting. I don't know, just kind of a clash of cultures almost. But he was so nice. He cooked us food, and oh man, shout out to Joe. It's been a long time since I've thought about that story actually, but that's really the only time I've had just like a total stranger let me stay for free. But I mean, I feel like almost everybody gets that at some point if you thru hike enough.
Yeah. And it's so nice too. Like restores your faith in humanity a little bit. Cause like what other situation would you invite someone you don't know to stay at your house? Yeah. Other than long distance trails.
He was aware of the AT because he lived so close, but he wasn't like normally doing trail magic or picking up hikers. So it wasn't like one of those situations either. So like, man, what a blessing. Shout out to Joe, dude.
Shout out to Joe.
I think I'm Facebook friends with him still. I don't know. We can move on if you want, Maddie, but are there any other like notable regrets, I guess, you can think of?
No, not that I can think of.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. I've talked about most of my regrets so much on previous episodes. Let's talk about something else that honestly hasn't been talked about too much on the show, and this is something I have no experience with, so I might not have too much insight here, but I am very curious. You and your boyfriend, who's sitting right behind the cameras right now, y'all can't see him, but I promise he's here. Shit. It starts with a Gabriel. I was like, it starts with a G. And Charlie was Smoke Master. Okay. Y'all met on trail.
Mm-hmm.
You like how I'm working in the y'all? I don't normally say y'all, but we're in the South right now. You guys met on trail.
Yeah.
And you're still together to this day. And this is, I'm kind of curious about this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people are too that haven't thru hiked, or even people like me that have thru hiked and didn't experience this, nor did they try. I don't know. Let's just start by like, how did you guys meet? Like, where on the trail? Like, tell the story.
We met at Standing Bear Hostel. I was having a very bad morning, and our mutual friend was like, "What's your trail name and what's your favorite movie?" And I was like, I do not want to talk to this like random person. I don't know. I don't have a trail name yet. And then the three of us got to talking, and then I was like, okay, I'm just really tired and having a bad day. These guys are awesome. And so I kind of saw that group of friends more down trail, kind of started hiking with them. From like, what's the town with Laughing Heart Hostel? Hot Springs.
The Hot Springs, yeah.
Yeah. From like there on, I kind of stayed with that group for a while. And when we were in, do you want me to go on with the whole story?
Yeah,
okay.
Definitely. It's Trail Tales.
The love story. Okay, so when we were in Tennessee, we were walking together one day, and one of us hinted at having feelings for each other. The other person was not interested, and so we just went on with friendship proceeding as normal. And then, a lot of times we just ended up together a lot, and I was like, no one better think we're dating, because we're not.
Were you the one that wasn't interested at first?
Yeah.
Is this hard for you to listen to right
not
now?
to make you look bad, babe.
I mean, shit happens, you know, people.
It did, you're right. Because, let's see. When we were in Maryland, we were by the Washington Monument.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not familiar with the AT, not the proper Washington Monument, but just another
I forgot about that.
spire that's on the trail. So then I was like, man, I kind of do like this guy. You know, I didn't want to date anyone on the trail because like what happens afterwards. But that's the first time I remember admitting to myself that I'm like, okay. But then let's see. When we were in New York State, we were walking together again, and I don't remember how I brought it up, but I was like, hey, like, I'm interested now. Kind of hinting at that, and he wasn't feeling it, so I was like, oh my gosh.
It's like the classic Jim and Pam like love story. Like one's interested, the other one's not, and then they flip. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So then our group of friends went to New York City for a 0 day just to explore, and everyone was going to REI, but I stayed at the hotel room to work on videos.
Classic.
And who else was staying back too but Smoke Master? And then we just got to talking, and we were like, okay, we like each other. Let's just because with that fear I had in the beginning of like, what if we break up on trail, and that would be bad. At the same time, I think it would also be really disappointing to like two people be interested in each other, spend every day together, and just not see where it goes, you know? The trail is hard, and life is hard, and if you can find someone to help you through it, like, why not?
Yeah.
So, that was the point where our group kind of split up going forward on the trail. So like we really had each other's back going through the Whites, going through Maine. Like I was definitely at a mental low point a lot. So it was definitely hard too sometimes, wanting to go different paces. But in the end, like we made it.
Yeah.
Got each other through.
Incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I'll speak for myself.
Yeah.
I've never even been close to having a romantic relationship on trail. I've never tried, and certainly nobody's tried for me. That's for sure. So like, I've never been in this situation, but I imagine if I was kind of in like the courting phase, we'll say, or like you're kind of developing feelings, I feel like there would be a lot of hesitation due to the after the trail stuff. Like how the hell are we going to make this work after trail? Smoke Master, I don't remember where you're from, but I imagine y'all probably didn't live close together.
We did actually.
Oh, okay.
So that was kind of like when we were getting to know each other, that was like, wow, we have so much in common.
Yeah.
We're from the same area. I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, and he's from Southern Indiana. So like about it depends where in Southern Indiana you're talking about, but an hour or less away.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, I shouldn't have made that assumption then.
But it was also hard after the trail because we were like, we go through every day with each other when we're on the trail, and then all of a sudden we're back, and we had to like plan, okay, I'm coming up for the weekend or something like that. So that was difficult at first, and I feel like all relationships that start on trail or any similar situation, you gotta be like, okay, are we going long distance? Are we gonna move in together? Or are we gonna break up? So it was definitely hard doing, not really long distance, but it was an adjustment at
You're
first.
still apart, yeah.
And then I actually never lived in an apartment before, so I was just living in my van, doing seasonal jobs, traveling. And so I was like, it's a time in my life where I do want an apartment. Do you want to move in together? So he had a job in Southern Indiana, so we found a place there.
And the rest is history.
Yeah.
Well, that's really cool that you guys, and I'm not trying to imply that it wouldn't have worked if y'all weren't closer together. And I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that have made that work. I mean, hell, me and my girlfriend, she was living in Hawaii and I was living in New Hampshire for a while, and we're doing great. But again, putting myself kind of in your shoes, I guess, in that situation, like, I feel like even the distance thing aside, maybe, you know, assuming you're not close together, that's one thing. But then also trail life and real life is very different. And again, I'm not trying to like challenge your relationship. Like I promise you that. I'm just, again, thinking about what would be going through my head if I was in that scenario, regardless of how great the person was. I just feel like that would be something that would worry me. And again, I feel bad. Like, I don't want you to talk about things that worry you when your boyfriend's sitting right there, or in publicly for that matter. So if you want to talk about something else, that's totally fine, Maddie. But I don't know. Did you think about like how did you think about the differences in a relationship on trail versus off trail? Is that something that you were, I don't know, worried or at least concerned? I don't know.
Yeah.
Best way to phrase it.
I don't even remember if I thought too much about it beforehand, but there was definitely a distance in those first few weeks off, or a difference, I should say, in the first few weeks off trail, because on trail, everyone generally goes to bed and wakes up at the same time. Everyone, you spend your day in the same way. Off trail, it's like so much more freeform, and you got to be like, okay, this person likes to do this, I like to do this. How is that going to work together?
It's a very different dynamic.
Have you heard of the reality show Love is Blind?
I've heard of Love on the Spectrum. I don't think that's the same thing. No.
Well, okay, so these people, I watched this show because in the first commercial I watched, they were like, it's a psychological experiment. And I was like, oh, that sounds so interesting. But really, it's just same old reality dating show as usual. But these people meet not seeing each other, and then they see each other, and they have to get engaged in order to see each other.
Or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And someone on that show was talking about how, like, when they're in the pods, which is when they can't see each other, it's just like a conversation, but then they have to figure out how to do life together too. And so it kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah.
Going from a different situation where, okay, we get along, we're vibing. How do we take that same vibe to everyday life?
Yeah. So my next question is purely just like based on your experience, anecdotal. And, you probably have to give a pretty general answer here, but how often, roughly, do you think you saw other hikers coupling up on trail?
I can think of 2 already off the top of my head. I feel like if you count people that were just kind of hooking up, maybe like 5 or 6. I feel like that's more common,
Probably. So again, I've made it pretty clear. I wasn't in like a huge social group on any of my hikes, and I definitely wasn't, ever in a relationship or hooking up with anybody for that matter or anything like that on any of my hikes. But I feel, and this could be totally wrong. I could be just totally talking out of my ass here, but I just feel like I've heard stories. We'll just put it that way. So take this with a grain of salt. But I just feel like I've heard a lot of stories about people. I feel like I've heard more stories about people meeting and coupling up on trail and then breaking up after than I have people who met on trail and then, stayed the course, I guess. What is your opinion on that? What have you heard, I guess? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I know of one couple that's actually here at Trail Days with us that's met on trail and is still together. The other couples I can think of, everyone else broke up. So I guess it's more common to break up because it is really difficult. But the Trek website had a survey where they did what people's relationship status was at the beginning of the trail and the end of the trail.
Oh,
and
really?
A lot of people at the end said they were in a relationship with someone they met on trail.
You mentioned this in the video we watched. It was like 9%, I want to say. Almost 10%.
Isn't that crazy? You would think it'd be maybe 1.
I wish I'd pulled this survey up ahead of time. I feel like there's probably some funny stuff in this. Let's see. 2023 Appalachian Trail Thru Hikers survey. You remember if there's any other questions about like couples or anything like that?
That same one that was talking about what's your relationship status. It was also interesting to see the number of married people or the people that were in a relationship with someone off trail kind of went down by the end.
Let's see. I got it right here. So the percentage that were married but not hiking with their spouse, start of hike, it was at 27%. End of hike, it was at 24%.
So 3% of people broke up with someone off trail.
Marriage, mind you.
Yeah.
And, we can get into like...
Maybe you're hiking because the marriage is falling apart.
Yeah, I mean...
Getting away.
Or even like... Here's interesting. So... And then the numbers as far as someone who was in a relationship but not hiking with their partner at the start of their hike versus the end of their hike. At the start of the hike, 22%. At the end of the hike, 18%. So a little bit bigger of a breakup rate there, I guess, but not like significantly bigger than I would have assumed that it would have been a larger percentage there, like than it actually is. I mean, it is a little bit larger than the percentage of marriages that broke up, but like, man, this is interesting. Let's see. Anything else good in here? Yeah, in a new percentage of people in a new relationship that they met on the AT, 9%. That's higher than I would have guessed, to be honest. I wish they could do like a follow-up.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing because that's at the end of trail, not a month later.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges of thru hiking specifically with a significant other?
I think our hardest challenge was pacing because, like, especially at the end where we were just at our wits' end, like one person would want to be like, let's push on, the other person wouldn't. And it was hard because it's hard to keep track of who gets what they want in that time. And a lot of times it seems like whatever end you're on, it's the other person that always gets their way, given that's probably not factual, but just
how
like,
it's perceived, I guess. In the
yeah,
moment.
exactly. When you're having such a hard time. Because I guess you could also just, if you're hiking with like a best friend or just anyone, any hike where it's just two people, you're probably going to butt heads in some way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. What about, I was going to say the benefits. Not those benefits, okay? So relax, everybody. That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe something that even, I mean, this might be a little tricky to answer, Maddie. This might be, you might have to think about this for a second. Benefits of hiking with a partner, but maybe that you wouldn't necessarily have with someone who's just like a normal, like platonic hiking partner. I'm thinking of maybe like the one thing that comes to mind is maybe like sharing more gear, like being able to, I mean, I'm sure there's, just friends that share tents and stuff, but it's probably more common with couples.
Yeah.
I don't know. Any like benefits like that you can think of?
Definitely. I think we complimented each other a lot, and that was always a morale boost to hear that, like, even as awful as I feel, someone still thinks I'm cute. Another benefit would be, I don't necessarily see this as much, but my boyfriend would say people offered us more, like, sometime when we were in Virginia, we weren't even dating yet, and someone offered for us to stay at her house. Back to what we were talking about before, and she didn't offer to anyone else she crossed paths with that day. So he thinks because we looked like a couple, she was like, oh, reminds me of me and my husband.
Maybe she could see into the future.
You're right. But the reason I didn't bring that up earlier, I kind of forgot about it, was because when we called her, she didn't answer. So it just didn't work out.
Oh, that would have been awkward. You guys would have had to pretend you were a couple. And then I'm sure there was still like a little bit of chemistry or interest there, obviously, given what ended up happening later. Yeah. That would have been kind of awkward. Maybe that would have started it off.
You're right.
Maybe that lady would have unknowingly started things off earlier. That's kind of interesting to think about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Damn.
And another benefit I just thought of is after trail, just having that connection to the trail. And like, we still bring up inside jokes from the trail, mentioning our friends from the trail, and just, it kind of, I feel like my post-trail depression was lessened because I still had a really big factor of my time on trail still in my life.
And not to mention, you have somebody that you're seeing regularly that you're so close to that went through such a similar experience. Because I feel like a lot of people that, have the post-trail blues or whatever, your post-trail depression, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the time it's because not really people that they're now spending time with post-trail can't really relate to their experience. And of course, you can call and FaceTime, and maybe occasionally you'll see some trail friends in person, but it's not really the same as if you're in person with somebody on the regular that knows exactly, that went through exactly what you're going through. And again, I haven't experienced that, but I can just imagine that would be quite helpful in that regard. That's actually something I've never thought about before until you just brought it up there. That's that's interesting for sure.
Plus, after and during trail, he's a more friendlier person than I am. I kind of get shy sometimes. Oh, thank you. I try. But sometimes I just get really in my head and like, I don't know how to start a conversation with someone. And so it's kind of just like a way to get to know people.
Yeah.
He's more outgoing.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I appreciate you being like so open about all this stuff. Personally, if it were me, I'm already stumbling over my words, even just asking you questions. Like, I feel like if it was me, it would be so awkward, and not that I would be embarrassed to talk about. I would just suck at it. So I appreciate you, being so open about this stuff, Maddie. And I know you've talked about it in a lot of your videos, and that's why I felt comfortable bringing it up. because you've been so open about it on your channel. And actually, speaking of your channel, one thing I wanted to ask about too is, you know, you were in the middle of filming your thru hike when y'all met and when y'all started dating. So like, how did that work? Like, were you like hesitant to put him on camera? Like,
in the beginning, I would always say my friend so-and-so. But as the course of the trail went on, they were like a recurring character. And so the people I was closest to on trail, the viewers got to know a little bit. And I thought that was so cool because it was like they were part of our little group. And then when we started dating, I was like, I don't know if I actually want to tell people we're dating because I don't want that to be like a hallmark of my story of the time on the trail. I don't want to be remembered as the girl that started dating.
And especially, I mean, a new relationship like that too. And you know, not doubting y'all or anybody else for that matter, but like, you just never know.
Definitely.
So, my experience hasn't been the same with this, but I've had basically 2 relationships since I started making content and stuff. And with both of them, and it had nothing to do with the girls I was dating. Well, one of them I'm still dating, and hopefully will be for a long, long time. Aww. And but it had nothing to do with them. You know, it was purely me just like not wanting to put that out there. I did recently kind of put some information out about my current girlfriend because we've been together for well over a year now, and I felt more comfortable with it. But like, so that's one thing that comes to mind for me. I feel like I wouldn't want to potentially wouldn't want to put them in just, or I guess maybe disclose it, you know, like you mentioned there, just because I'd be afraid that we would end up breaking up. And now you've got all these comments like, oh, what happened to, like, and then your personal, you know, these personal intimate relationships are now on the internet for everyone to see. And, you know, of course, people eat that shit up. So like, you know, some people are going to be wondering about that. So that'd be a tough spot to be in.
Definitely. What I ended up doing was, I think about like Connecticut time, I kind of hinted, I soft launched the fact that we might be more than friends. Like we shared a milkshake in one episode.
The commenters probably ate that up, didn't they?
No one said anything about
really?
it.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, okay. Like
that was a hint.
I guess it's not that obvious, but okay. And then it was Vermont when I actually said, me and Smokemaster are more than friends. And that was so exciting for me to plan. But the people were like, we knew it. Obviously, I don't know why you would even announce it like that. Some people anyway. But that was really funny. And now it's like, sometimes I'll film a video with just me and people will be like, oh, where's Smokemaster today? And I'll be like, he's at work. Pay attention to me. This is my video. Just kidding.
No. Yeah, well, it sounds like you handled it super well. That is, you know, kind of tricky, I can imagine, but
yeah,
I'm glad that everything worked out for the best. And I wish you all the best. And thank you also, Smokemaster, for sitting here and just listening to all this. I imagine that might be a little bit uncomfortable, so I appreciate it. So we're getting towards the end here now, Maddie. And so the long-running tradition on the show is for guests to share a story at the end of the episode. And I feel like a couple years ago, like probably 2021 time period, there was a time period there where I would consistently forget to remind my guests that they had to have a story ready for the end. And every time that would happen, I would like own up to it. And I would be like, hey, I forgot to tell the guest, everybody, just so everybody knows. And then I feel like I got pretty good. And I feel like I haven't forgotten for so long until now. I totally forgot to tell you. I mean, and you had been on the show before, but that probably just confused you even more because I didn't remind you about it. So maybe you thought it was not a thing anymore, but I'm here to inform you it is. And I am sorry for not reminding you ahead of time.
No worries. Do you want a through hiking story or can it be a paddling story?
Oh my God. I totally forgot about the paddling stuff. Let's do a paddling story. Okay. Let's switch it up a little bit. Yeah.
So I'll just do like the main thing that happened to me on this trip.
Sure.
I was in Florida on the Peace River.
This was pretty recent, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was in March. I rented a kayak, read online that there is this paddling trail. People do like a through hike where you do from beginning to end. And I was like, that sounds like a really cool way to change things up. I knew alligators would be there, being it was Florida. But when I asked the outfitter, they were like, we've never had a problem with it. Don't worry. And I just kind of took it at face value, like, okay. But then actually the first, I get there and I'm feeling a little nervous. No alligators yet, but I come up to this log across the river. I can't drag my kayak on land either way. I can't go underneath it at all or through it anyway. So I have to stand on. You know what cypress knees are?
No.
If you picture a swamp and picture like they look like volcanoes coming out of the water.
Like
not volcanoes.
Are they logs?
No, they're like knees of the root system.
Okay.
Like the roots go down and back up like that. And that's how the cypress tree gets oxygen. But anyway, just picture like tree stuff.
We'll put a photo in.
Okay.
And for those watching it, I'm looking at them right here on Google.
I'm probably describing it pretty bad. So
no, it's pretty similar to what I thought when you said the volcano thing, actually.
Okay, good. Well, I was like standing on those, trying to get my kayak over this log. Finally do. It's a long process, but I'm like, okay, good. And then, seriously, like a minute later, I'm coming around a bend, and I'm always like looking out for a gator, and I see, oh gosh, please don't let that be a gator. It is. It's like 10 feet or maybe even 5 feet away from me. It's not like when I had seen gators in the wild before, they'd been a couple feet long. This is like a gator you would see in a zoo, like over 6 feet, like 10 feet, like very long. I don't know, 10 feet, probably not, but it was very scary.
Yeah.
And so I just like freaked out for a moment, then back paddled. It went in the water, went underneath, but I was still just like, what the heck? And that was just in like the first hour of being on this paddling trip. And I saw some wild hogs later on. And it was just like, this place is so crazy. But I somehow set up camp and went to sleep that night. I continued on with the rest of the trip. So...
Did you see any water moccasins? Those are what scared me. Levi and I were talking about this last night. We were talking about the Florida Trail. Like, I think, I know you're not on the Florida Trail, but Florida swamps.
Yeah.
Like, water moccasins are what freaked me out the most.
I didn't see any snakes.
That you noticed?
Yes. That's the key. That I noticed. And so many people have asked me about them. I guess that is kind of a mistake I made before the trail. I didn't realize snakes are another thing to look out for and be aware of. I kind of trusted that the outfitter would tell me things I needed to be aware of.
To be fair, I'm sure like encounters with snakes and alligators, for that matter, are like super rare. So it's not trying to scare anybody, but I don't know. The snakes are what I would think of. I mean, the alligators sound scary for sure. I wouldn't want to get close to one, that's for sure. But
yeah, for real. I was like, oh, it won't be a big deal. And then I saw one and I was like, this is the day I die.
No.
Goodbye, world.
You're here. You're here in Damascus. And we just had an awesome episode.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Maddie. Where can people go find your channel if they haven't seen it yet?
Beer and Beautiful Places on YouTube. I made a documentary about my time on the AT called 23 Ways to Drink in Life on the Appalachian Trail.
Nice.
Or Appalachian, if you want to say it that way.
We are in the South after all.
I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
Nice. I will have a link to Maddie's stuff in the show notes. And thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
I don't know if they can see that. Probably not. We'll have to crop it. Yeah. Thank you, Maddie. I really appreciate it. And Trail Days is going to be sick.
It is.
All right. And thank you to Levi as well for setting up the cameras and to Luke for editing this. Everybody, I'll see you next 2 weeks. I'll see you in 2 weeks. I got to get used to that. And thank you for listening and watching. Take care.